Greetings and welcome back to From the Depths and to the Vehicle Designer, where currently I need to build an engine or this new fortress that I'm working on is going to blow up. Now, I'm just going to quickly put this down before I do anything else just to avoid said blowing up. There we go. That should make this fortress a little bit happier. In fact, we're going to be putting quite a lot more than that on this one. These are the prefabs for my most efficient engine design. Well, I mean, it's short, but it can be repeated pretty much indefinitely, and it has the correct ratio of fuel tanks to superchargers that I covered in my engine science video. And so this should really give us more than enough power to pretty much do whatever we want. Though I probably will expand this a little bit. Now, that little worry out of the way, we are going to be looking at building a new fortress in this episode, obviously. Specifically, our fortress is going to be a replacement for the Elpis, or rather, an evolution of the Elpis design. As I mentioned right at the beginning when I made the Elpis was designed specifically to... Ooh, well, wait a second. Why are we going to power? Ah, there we go. Phew, I was quite concerned there for a second. But the Elpis was designed specifically to be a peaceful station. Well, now as we approach the end of the Deepwater Guard, I'm going to need one that's built for operating a little bit deeper into hostile waters. But to answer the other question that's probably on everyone's lips, no, I haven't forgotten. The 3 winners have already been selected from the video. That is, those who posted comments with Boslan Chap in the comment. I was really surprised by how creative some people were. I'll be honest, I did expect quite a lot of people just to put Boslan Chap in the comment, and that'd be the only comment, the only content of their comment. And there were some people who did that, but the vast majority found very creative ways to put the name Boslan Chap in their comments, and I was very, very impressed, I must be honest. Now, I am going to reveal the 3 winners throughout this video. This video is probably going to be a bit of a long one, and I imagine this build may actually take place over 2 videos. But we'll start off with the first winner, and then I'll, at some point towards the middle, I'll mention the second, and towards the end, I will mention the third. Now, the first winner is Pie in a Apple. I very nearly wrote that down as pineapple, but then surprisingly, I noticed that the spelling was wrong. Very, very uncommon for me, but there we are. So, Pie in an Apple. You have won a copy of From the Depths, and you should have a message in your inbox by the time you see this video with your key. Now, specifically with this design, the idea was to kind of have an echo of the previous structure, the previous fortress. And I'm thinking what we would want is perhaps, let's pop down a mirror line about there. We'll take this up about here. We'll grab this and we'll start taking this up here until it's about level. I don't think we need another one high really. So there we go. We'll have another couple of layers of thrusters moving up in here. If you remember with the Elpis, the fortress turbines were actually internal to the Elpis. They actually existed inside the cavity, just along the inside of the walls, actually. And that's more or less what we've got going on here. There we go. Now, I'm going to go ahead and get all of this set up. And when I bring you back, I am going to have added a few more bits and bobs, because this is going to be a fairly large design, so I'm not going to be building it all on camera, but it is also an experimental design. This is something I've not tried to do before, and I just kind of on a whim thought, well, since this is going to celebrate the end of the Deepwater Guard, I need to make something a little bit more flashy than I might have otherwise. It is going to be a painfully expensive build. I'm just warning you now, this is going to be really, really obnoxiously expensive. So, you have been warned. And welcome back. Now, as you can see, I have been busy in your absence. I have added more fortress turbines, just because we're going to need a lot of these. Probably considerably more than this. In fact, almost absolutely considerably more than this, in order to keep it at the right sort of height. We do not want this to be too high above the water, though. That's worth noting. This is not meant to be hovering high above the water. In fact, it's meant to be close enough to the water that it can have a functional torpedo system. That will be coming, obviously, out through the bottom of the fortress. And that, specifically, is going to be part of the experimental nature of this build. I'm going to keep those cards close to my chest, again, because I don't know how many episodes it's going to take to build this. But just to go over what I have done, I've increased the size of the engines just to complete the pattern on the top. It's not quite there. I would have liked to have been able to complete the pattern as I have just down at the bottom, but I can live with that, I think. But that has increased the power output of this fortress to 55,000 power. And I imagine it is hopelessly, well, hopelessly is the wrong word. I imagine it is very hopefully super efficient. Yes, in terms of fuel efficiency, the tiniest drop of fuel will run this fortress for a very, very long time. Now, in here you will notice that this is conspicuously armored. And that is because this is the primary ammo stockpile. But not just that. You'll also notice the conspicuous cross-shaped aperture going right down the middle. There are also some ammo fabricators at the top and the bottom of this, and I've even gone to the effort of shaping this. Now, I've shaped this with a view to eventually painting it, so it's got some interesting shapes in here that I think are going to look very nice once painted. But this cross-shaped aperture, I have in mind a laser system. It's not going to be an offensive laser system before you get your hopes up, but it's going to be a very powerful laser defense system, a very, very long-range laser defense system. That is the goal here. Now, I need to flesh out the remainder of this, so I'm going to say 8 in total, this would be, at the top and at the bottom, will give me everything I need. Now, what I would like to do is add in these on the side, and although this part is going to be unnecessary, I will actually, let's go ahead and add in the laser connectors at the top. Now, I'm going to have something a little bit artistic at this point, I think. Just something to give this a little bit of flair. And also be functional as well, actually. And that is, we're going to have a laser transceiver pointing straight down. No, that's straight up. We want it pointing straight down. Right there. Now, this is going to connect to our laser defense system at the top. At the very bottom, actually, let me grab the metal as well. Now, for the most part, I want to make the actual hull out of lightweight alloy. But these important sections in the middle, I'm going to properly armor. So we want 2 down there and 2 down here as well. Let's go all the way up, shall we? Got this one. Okay. Right, I just needed to double check how I had that set up. So we just need these metal blocks in the small nooks between each of these metal pillars. Right, okay, so that works. Down here is where we're going to have, let's find you. This would be, now with a laser system this tall, I think we could even possibly afford to make it a continuous wave laser. That would be very, very nice. Why don't we try that? Let's see actually how far this could go out. So if we put the multi-purpose laser block there. Now the idea here is that if we use the connectors, I'll quickly demonstrate why I set the transceiver at the top. Because I don't want to have to run these all the way up the inside of the vessel. If I just do this like so, and this is a lot of redundancy, and it's not there for redundancy, it's just there so that the pattern is symmetrical. If I put that there, it should connect. There we go, you can see it connecting all the way up. And even when I build the laser in here, it's still going to connect, so that's fine. Right, we want the laser coupler. We will place it... You know what, we're going to remove that one. And we'll, if it's going to be a continuous wave laser, I can do that instead. Now, I'm not sure how powerful this is going to be or what kind of range we're going to be able to expect from it, but I can pretty much do what I like here. So let's go for the laser cavity. We'll aim back down and then build this all the way up. All the way right to the top. So keep going. In fact, let's lock that in position and then build that all the way up there. Now, this has room to have cavities, the actual laser pumps, all along its length. But I'm thinking the top and the bottom will actually be for frequency doublers and destabilizers, because they have a very good cumulative effect on the laser itself. So let's just get this set up. If we lock that in position and then all the way up to the top, we end it there, and then have the mirror line going across that way. See, I'm remembering the mirror line. The apocalypse is nigh. You have been warned. You've seen the signs. If you don't take action against the apocalypse, well, it's your own damn fault. Right. Continuous wave laser, 17 damage, 1 AP, approximate range 99. That is not good enough. No. What we're going to have is some frequency doublers. Now, I believe this should work. We want to alternate them, like so. Then have the destabilizers. Now, what I've noted is that generally you want an equal number of destabilizers to frequency doublers. Now, how has this affected our continuous wave laser? It's now got a range of 523 and a damage of 41. It's not bad for a continuous wave laser, honestly. Half a kilometer range, 41 damage with 5 AP. Yeah, that's actually not bad at all. I really don't know how much AP, that is armor piercing, you need on something that is designed to take down missiles, but we're going to assume you need a lot. Or at least, I'm going to assume that it's better for me to have alternating destabilizers and frequency doublers, regardless of whether that is really the purpose of this laser system, whether it's ever actually going to be tested against armor. Okay, so we've added in those at the top. Again, this is not meant to be super awesome laser. It's just meant to do enough damage to something at range. There we go, 43 damage at almost 700 meters. I think that could be a decent anti-missile system. I'm not aiming to make this very powerful. Again, that isn't the goal of this system. I don't want to make this some sort of doomsday weapon and make it completely impervious to being taken out. I just want to give it a good chance, and I think we are probably giving it a good chance with this. So that's the anti-missile system setup. We will, of course, add out along these sorts of lines. If we built out, where are we, laser connectors. My idea would be to have the laser connectors coming out along the side, for example, like this, and then somewhere around there we'd have the laser missile defense, like a little web of them. So we'd have one there, one at the top, there, one facing out, and just this on the 4 points at the top and the bottom. That'll give us pretty good anti-missile coverage, I feel. In fact, it's probably going to be way over the top, but I mean, part of this design is just flat out going to be over the top. Now, we've got the central systems set up. Now, the reason why I really wanted to get that done early is because the aesthetic systems and also the harvesting systems are going to come next. And I needed to know where the middle of this was going to be, because we are going to be using spin blocks. Now, the problem is, with the laser system running along the spine of this, you might be wondering, well, how are you going to use a spin block to do this? Because you kind of need the spin block in the middle. Yes, but we can use light blocks to a certain degree. Now, this is going to be a bit of an awkward one, and it's going to mostly be me just counting blocks and things like that. So I'm going to bring you back when I've got the basic system in place. And here we are with our spin block working. Look at that. Now, there are a couple of things that I'm going to want to cover with how I got this set up, but the first thing we're going to do is we're going to announce who won the second From the Depth key. And that is, now I'm probably going to get this wrong, it's a bit of a tongue twister really, Kin Al Nareth. I hope you enjoy the game. You should, as with Pie in an Apple, already have the code. Just check your YouTube inbox. Now, how did I get this spin block in the middle? Quite simple, actually. It's deceptively simple, though very, very costly in terms of crystals because of the enormous amount of light blocks I need. That is the spin block right there. That is the control for the spin block, which is currently set to, as long as it's alive, spin it at a speed of 1. Then just a long line of light blocks all the way down. Then light blocks bringing it out past the engine block. And then you'll notice I've got a beam of metal. And then some more light blocks. Now, the reason why I've done this is, much as with the Elpis, we're going to have sort of like limbs on the ends. Not limbs on the ends of these. We're going to have like shield structures on the end of these limbs. Now, what I don't want to happen is for an explosion to chain react down a long line of light blocks, destroy part of my engine, destroy and get in through here, through the way the damage propagates. Now, I'm not sure if it would, but, you know, I want to protect against that possibility, and then set off all of my ammo and blow everything up. So what I've got a little breaker. If this were to get damaged by a stray cannon shell, then the explosion would travel down and probably end at that, because the light blocks in here are probably going to be too deep in the armor for anything to realistically hit them. That's the plan. So I'm trying to think ahead now. Obviously, with the resources that are going to be invested in this design, we don't want to just throw it away. Also, this isn't even remotely as intricate as this spin block design on this particular vessel is going to be. In fact, the spin blocks here are probably going to be a little bit shorter. I'll have the resource gathering limbs a little bit closer to the actual metal shell of the outpost itself. I'm contemplating having some extra metal running down on the inside, just between the engine and the outer wall, because this is only lightweight metal alloy, and I don't really want to coat the entirety of this in metal, because it's going to be very, very costly to keep it in the air. So what I might do is I might strategically have bands of metal armor inside, just to try and absorb any damage that manages to get through the outer hull. Obviously, we're going to be shaping this significantly, but I'm not sure how much I'm going to be doing on outside here, whether we're going to be changing that from just basically a cylinder, because tapering in two different directions at the same time is really difficult From the Depth. Really, really hard. And welcome back. Now, you will probably notice that I've gone and done quite a lot of work. A large amount of this work is due to a crash, unfortunately. Just as I was working on this, the game crashed, and unfortunately I hadn't had the forethought to save the construction. So I've just spent the better part of the last hour rebuilding everything. And obviously, rebuilding something from memory will generally result in small discrepancies. So it's more or less exactly the same thing. Well, actually, I shouldn't say exactly. It's more or less the same thing, but there are slight differences. You will notice that one of the differences is that this is now a correct number of blocks long, so that we actually have a middle. I'm very, very, very happy with this now. That is I mean, I probably could have lived with it before, but since I was rebuilding it anyway, you may as well rebuild it to the specifications that will not result in your brain melting. Also, I've extended this out a little bit. The laser can now reach out to just past 1 kilometer with 50 damage on a continuous beam, so that should be more than adequate to take out any missiles coming in, because it'll be able to open fire very early on. Now, to address the elephant in the room, we have what on the surface would look like 2 spin blocks. One is the currently spinning cross, and the next is this T shape. It is not a cross. Now, nor is it 1 spin block. It's actually 3 independent spin blocks. So in total there are 4 here, and the amount of light blocks that I've had to use to build this is just obscene. The crystal cost of this construct, just for aesthetics, is going to be staggering. Well, actually, I'm not going to say just for aesthetics, because these will be part of the defensive structure as well. But I'm hoping to do something a little bit more complicated, a little bit more fancy with this one. Now, I'll show you what I mean. If we come up here, we will see that I've already placed in some control blocks. Now, one of them is already set up. On each of these, it's already set up. And what I would like to show you is we're going to try and arrange these in a pattern that is not typically possible in this game. This game deals with cubes. It deals with symmetry. So having a triangle is difficult. Actually having a triangle in the sense of a triangle on a flat plane rather than a cube which has been cut in a very specific angle to create the illusion of a triangle. In reality, they're pyramids. Now, what we're going to do here is on spawning, I want this spin block that's being controlled here to move to a very specific angle. Now, it's a little bit difficult to work out which one's which here. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to move this one like 10 degrees. Okay, so we're controlling this one right at the bottom here. Fine. Okay, that is perfect. We are going to keep that as 0. That will... actually, what I would like to do is I'd like to find out which one that is. I'll work from the middle. So basically, we want these equally spread apart. So that's about 120 degrees between each one. And that'll give us our full circle and everything will be the correct distance. So this is already 90 degrees from that middle one. So we just want to push it an extra 30 degrees. Now, will 30 take it in the right direction? No, 30 will take it in the wrong direction. So we want this to be minus 30. There we go. Now, we want to go all the way down to the bottom and try and work out which of these two is the middle one and which is the end one. Now, right, here we are. This one is setting it to 0 degrees. Let's move up a little bit so we're not clipping the water underneath us. Actually, it'll be... oh, it's such an awkward angle. But we'll try this one. So let's move this one to, say, 20 degrees. And test. Okay, so that is the middle one. So this is not the one we want to use. We want that one to be in the middle of these two. So we want this one. And you'll notice each one of these is set to a limit of 2. So they're not controlling the spin block above or below. Now, I would like this one, I believe, to move 30 degrees in the other direction. And that should, hopefully, set us up with... oh, look at that. That is perfect. Now, you'll notice, of course, that I've got 2 control systems for each one. That is because once this is spawned in, and I want this to be on a bit of a delay, when this is spawned in, if its health is above 0, so basically it's okay, with a delay of measured in seconds, the effect will be applied after this time. Only one effect can be queued at any given time. Now, I'm not sure how that is going to stack up. Like, is that in the range that this is working? We'll find out. We want it to have about a 5-second delay. Or actually on spawning, give it a 5-second delay, I think. Either that, or we could every input seconds. Every input seconds would mean that we don't need a delay. So, yeah, we'll just neatly get around that problem. But if anyone happens to know how the delay queuing system works, whether it's a global queuing system, in which case I don't think the Abaya would be able to dive the way it does. But, I mean, it could just be lucky that it manages to work. But if anyone does have any concrete knowledge on how the delay queue works, do let me know in the comments. But what we want is after, let's say, 5 seconds. So every 5 seconds, so I imagine when it spawns, every 5 seconds after that, I wanted to set the rotation speed to 5. So what we'll have is that going around crazy fast. Now I want to do exactly the same thing down here, but I want to make sure that they're rotating in the same direction. So this one, right here. Why are you facing the other way? Oh, that's so annoying. That will melt my mind. There we go. Right, so exactly the same thing. Every input seconds, do this. I mean, it's not the best way of doing it, certainly, but, you know, hopefully it'll just avoid any particular issue. And I think we set it to 5. Are they rotating in the same direction? They are most certainly not. Also, this one is not set to the correct distance. That needs to be 2. Now let's see if they rotate in the same direction. Scallywags. Okay, I need to set this to no limit and 0 rotation speed test. As soon as they stop rotating. Right, there we go. Always check your effect range, people. Save yourself a lot of trouble. Now, are they rotating in the same direction? They are not. So I need this one to be -5 then. That's a little bit annoying. But these should now both be moving in the same direction. And finally, again, down to 2. Activate every input seconds. Every 5 seconds. Try to set the spin block speed to, let's say, 5 for now. See if that's rotating in the right way. No, it is not. So -5 for you as well. Okay, now that looks all kinds of wrong. And that is because it didn't synchronize properly. So what we're going to do is we're going to quickly save the vehicle over here. Enu. This will be version 3. And then we're going to spawn a new one. So we're going to come over here and load vehicle. Now this should let us see how this works. 78,000 crystals. And that's just on the light blocks, really. Well, actually, no, it's also on the laser. But still, my lord. Right, resume game. Now, how is it going to set it up? Okay, in 5 seconds. There we go. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. I am very pleased. Very, very pleased. However, I want this to be -1. Because I want them to be rotating in different directions. But there we are. So basically, we've just had to do quite a lot of finagling just to get this specific, largely aesthetic detail to work. But just think of the possibilities with this. Now that we've actually got this to work, think of what we can do with this in the future. Not just on this build, but on all of the builds that are going to come after it. Now, am I over here? Am I on the one that's looking good? I am not. Very well. Take me over to the one that's looking good. Let me in. Whew. Okay, there we go. Right, we want to... I believe there'll be no changes now. It hasn't changed since. Okay, well, that's actually doing rather well, I think. Now, the next stage is going to be a very, very long and involved one. And that is adding on the armor to this middle section. Then the limbs, the gathering limbs. So they're more or less going to be exactly the same as the Elpis, just scaled up. Then we're going to have something else on the outside. Now, I'm not going to spoil the surprise. It's going to be similar to the gathering limbs, but its purpose is going to be very different. As for the weapon systems, there's going to be one at the top. And there's going to be one right down the bottom. The bottom one is likely going to be a torpedo system. And the top one is likely going to be... It's either going to be a cannon or a missile system. And I'm favoring missile system for now. However, they're not going to be strictly normal weapon systems. They're not going to be attached to the fortress in the normal way. I'm going to leave this episode on that, though. We've spent a long time building this, and it's mostly been the skeletal work. Usually I cut this out, but this was a very experimental build, and specifically this, what we're doing right here, is very experimental. The way I'm going to be attaching the weapon systems, that's also going to be pretty different. But I think I'm going to leave that for the next episode. In the next episode, we're going to come back, and we're going to actually have the vast majority of the shaping of the main section of the hull complete. That is going to take me hours, unfortunately. So I'm going to wrap the episode up here, but not before I announce the final winner, the winner of the third From the Depth key that I had to give away. It is HW. So there you go, HW, Kin Al Narath, and Pie in a Apple have all won keys, and you should find those keys already in your YouTube inbox. But that is it from me for now. I do hope you've enjoyed this episode and would warmly welcome any feedback you have on this design and where I'm taking it. But that's all for now, so until next time we meet, and as always, do take care.